We have made it to Tribulation Day 117. And the world, unfortunately, continues to spiral downwards into chaos. This morning, I almost don't know where to start. Right now, I think me and a lot of other people, we're kind of on a countdown. And it's all about signs in the heavens. This comet Elenin that's coming in, seems like there's a big cover-up. I don't really believe anything that NASA's telling us. I've seen a couple of articles where they said the comet is breaking up. I don't buy it. Another thing that I've been thinking about, and I was listening to another YouTube video, a guy talking about this, but we got a lot of people from Nostradamus to whoever, people that have made prophecy, and of course in the Bible it's just loaded with prophecy, especially Revelations, and that's why the end of this month, the 29th, just seems like the writing's on the wall, because it seems like it's going to be fulfillment of Revelations 12, talking about the woman in the heavens with the sun adorning her clothes, the moon at her feet, giving birth with Venus and Saturn in her womb. And of course that's followed by seeing the great dragon swiping a third of the stars, which, if we were having a pole shift, that's probably how it would look. It's like the stars are being thrown somewhere. Yesterday, here in California, they had a tsunami warning test from San Francisco down to Santa Cruz, which, just seems kind of odd, the timing of it all. And then, of course, I had someone send me a couple of links. There's the one video the government put out actually quite a while ago, which is like a disaster preparedness video, but it shows people just being thrown into the air. And every time I watched that commercial, I never kind of put two and two together, but I kind of thought, why are the people flying through the air? Well, if we had like a 9.0, a 12.0 earthquake, that might be what happens. Or if we have a pole shift, that might be what happens. So that's, once again, kind of odd. NASA sending out a warning to all of their employees to be prepared. And, one thing about, even in real life, when we watch events, depending on the perspective you have, everybody sees something slightly different. So when they tell their stories, sometimes things seem at odds, or it seems like a different story, but it's actually the same story, the same event. It's just people looking at it from different perspectives. And, that's how I kind of view this event coming up at the end of the month. In the Bible, there's a story, I think it's back in Genesis, but it's when Moses is having the Israelites kind of go into the Promised Land, and it's Joshua who's the general, and they're fighting one of the armies that's in the Promised Land. But anyway, over the course of the battle, Joshua prays to God, and supposedly the sun stayed in the sky for an extra 24 hours so that they could win the battle. But what you find is that on the other side of the world, kind of like where the Aztecs and the Hopi Indians are, they have tales of the day that the sun never rose. So it almost seems like the opposite story, but it's kind of like one and the same story, because if the sun stayed in the sky on the other side of the world, that means it didn't come up on the other side. But that's kind of, how it seems to be, with what's going to happen at the end of the month. In the Bible, you have a prophecy of a star alignment, and the Hopi Indians have basically the same kind of story, from a slightly different perspective, but it's the blue and the red cochina. And, the red cochina is the destroyer, the purifier. So no matter how you slice and dice it, it seems like some kind of celestial event, some kind of solar alignment is going to happen. And whether it's earthquakes, tsunamis, magnetism, whatever. We might be headed towards something. And, part of their prophecy, and if you look at their prophecy, everything they kind of talked about seems to be coming true. Before there was ever cars or telephones or the internet, they prophesied about all of that. And one of their signs about the final coming, of the two stars and the changing of the world, the transformation, is they talk about a house in the sky that falls to earth. And right now that seems like it's on the cusp of happening, because the International Space Station, they're talking about evacuating it. The Russian rockets now, which have been pretty reliable for decades, all of a sudden they don't know what's wrong with them, and they don't have any flights going up to the space station. So in all likelihood, they're going to abandon the space station in the next couple of weeks. And everybody I've heard talking about it says that the chances of the space station surviving without people on it is pretty slim, and that ultimately it could come crashing down into Earth, which could cause a disaster, because we're talking it would be like a meteor striking somewhere. But it seems like it's a fulfillment of their prophecy. So, it just seems like something's coming. And then, of course, I got sent a link last night for a movie trailer about this new movie coming out called Melancholia. And it's all about the end of the world, about a planet slamming into Earth. And, I don't know why, because it just seems like it's conspiracy, that it's crazy talk, but why is it all these movies coming out of Hollywood, whether it's 2012, Deep Impact, whatever, they all seem to be just showing us what the future may hold, maybe from slightly different perspectives, but it's still all the same story. So, Hollywood, I've always felt that some of the sinister forces that know about what's going to be happening, kind of help create and form what comes out of Hollywood. And, I think that's one of the deceptions is, when they tell us like, oh, whether it's the second coming, you won't know the day or the hour, maybe we will. And, oh, you can't predict earthquakes. Well, maybe we can. So, once again, it's all about preparing, both physically and mentally, having emergency supplies and having your head screwed on straight. All across America right now, Texas is just burning to the ground. The East Coast is just being flooded from Pennsylvania up on through New York and into New Jersey. I'm trying to get a hold of my cousins. I got cousins both in Pennsylvania and in the Providence, Rhode Island area. I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody. And, they showed a woman this morning on the news where she was just, praying to God to stop the rain. So, on top of it all, we got the Middle East situation, which I think is a powder keg that's going to go off. The vote on the 20th is coming up. And you know what? If there is this celestial event happening, I think personally the radical Islamic world, they're going to take it as a sign for them to do, to go to the next phase of whatever their operation is. And I don't think it bodes well for America. With the anniversary of 9/11 only 3 days away, we're already on high alert. Something could happen this weekend. But the world is just a really dangerous, crazy place. And, once again, as desperation, as frustration, as hopelessness sets in, people are coming closer and closer to the brink. And that's why we're seeing a rise in people just losing it. And, all the shootings, I see that increasing, and they already say, when it comes to the economic collapse, which we know is coming, the one thing we need to do to save ourselves, which is stop spending money we don't have, they won't do it because it's like, oh, if we cut off programs, everybody's going to be rioting in the streets, which is probably true, because we've reached a point as a society where we're so desperate and there's just no hope that you take away some entitlement and it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And next thing you know, you got people in the streets, just not thinking. And, it's bad news. So anyway, I'm going to try and think positive. I am believing more than ever that the time is now for those of us that are awake to be positive forces of one, to do whatever we can to help our friends, our neighbors, our family, anybody around us, to be the voice of reason, the calm in the storm. And you know what? One way or another, God will get us through it all. So, we could be in for some really, really strange times. And today here in San Jose, once again, it was cold and overcast. When the clouds blew off, for whatever reasons, there were all these high-altitude jets putting chemtrails into the sky, and this really weird cloud that looks like a vortex came floating over. I snapped pictures of all of it. I'm going to try and post some of these pictures up to the blog in case anybody wants to look at them. But, the chemtrails, the shimmer clouds, the weird-looking clouds, something's up. And, once again, I think, the mainstream media, they're trying to twist and, shape and feed us, the story they want us to believe, whether it's aliens coming or, hey, it's magic. It seemed like what I picked up from the Melancholia movie is magic. But, we got to stay strong and keep an eye on the truth of what actually is happening. And the tribulation, it's a big wake-up call. It's like, wake up! Life is strange. Even good people with good intentions, we're all being distracted. We're all being led down a path that's just slightly off the right path, where we get self-centered and absorbed with things that we shouldn't be absorbed with, worrying about the mortgage payment or how we're going to put some food on the table. And, I don't blame people because there's a reason to worry for that stuff. But you know what? I will tell you right now, have faith in God and He will provide. I'm going to get my tribulation on. I'm trying to get a hold of my cousins out on the East Coast, make sure they're okay, and also just give them a heads up. Make sure that their heads are screwed on straight. I'm gonna cast a wide net and try and bring as many people as I can. Make sure that they're walking the same path I'm walking. Alright, God bless. Keep on rocking.